This is an introductory whiteboard about what QRadar is. And let me start by saying first what QRadar is not. It's not a firewall manager. There are many products in the market that can do that. This is all about bringing intelligence to the SIEM. Let me show you what I mean. For a long time, QRadar has been able to bring from firewalls, from routers, from switches, and from IPSs and other devices, he has been able to bring logs. And it normalizes the log, so you don't need to know the brand name of a particular, whether it's Checkpoint, Juniper, or they are mixed up. A firewall denied, it's a firewall denied regardless of the terminology of the different vendors. So, and QRadar has been, bringing logs and in the form of syslog or any other method from routers, from switches, and from IPSs, right? Nothing new there. What Risk Manager brings to the picture is now the capability of bringing configuration information. So it can bring the configuration, it can actually read the configuration of the firewalls, also of the routers, of the switches and IPSs and more devices in the future. And what can it do is it can actually, reading that configuration information, it's also capable of getting routing table info. So it can get information about the neighbors. And how does it do that? Well, just for detail, it can actually has a way of discovering those devices on the network, similar to what we do with Vulnerability Manager. It can connect to things like the Juniper console for firewalls, the NSM, or Checkpoint version of it, SMS. It can be from a CBS file that you import that. And it's important to note that all these credentials, you need credentials to do this job, but all these credentials can be given to the ID that QRM is going to be using in read-only mode, because we are not going to be making changes on those devices. All we need to do is get that intelligence, that information from those devices. And what can we do with it? Well, for once, we can actually get the network topology. And sure, very nice is to get it in a visual format. You can actually, get the topology. But the beauty of this is that this can even be, and actually pretty soon you'll see the feature in the product is it can actually be automatic, meaning when we know that there has been a change made on a firewall, we can get a rule that actually fires on that and reads the configuration again, so your network topology is always up to date. We can also see the device configuration and see, the particular firewall routers, whatever rules are in there. We can compare those from the history perspective. Let's see, well, something happened. Let me see if there's been a change on the firewall rules that actually motivate that change. Or you can actually compare, well, this firewall is doing this job. Let me compare with another firewall to see what the difference between the two. Things of that, You can also, of course, locate shadow rules, those ineffective rules that will never be executed because they've been shadowed by another preceding rule on the firewall. But again, these are nice to have, but these are not the main things. I'm reserving the best thing for the rest. What is very nice is that you can actually bring attack path, and I have showed this in other videos on the offenses. It's very nice when you are investigating an offense in QRadar to see, okay, how does this attack went? What was the sequence of firewall, routers, rule, IPSs, etc. that led to this attack. You can also locate path, do searches the same way that you do searches in QRadar. We will be doing this in the subsequent videos. You can do path between different IPs. And you, for example, can see, well, there's a path that exists there, but this has been blocked. Why is it been blocked? Well, because a particular firewall rule. You can also do things like least and most used rules in the firewall. And this is good for firewall performance because, of course, if you have rules that are not executed at all or are not almost never executed, because every rule will be analyzed when every event that comes into the firewall, you may want to reduce those and improve the performance of your firewall. All this is good, but this is not why we did this. Main thing what we did this is because of the policies that now you can do in QRadar because you have all this wealth of information. Let me give you some examples, and again, we'll see these live in the subsequent videos. For example, I want to see what vulnerabilities are accessible from the internet. So I have a particular vulnerability, and I want to know whether it can be reached. I mean, I want to see from the topology standpoint if I have an IPS that blocks that, a firewall that blocks that. I mean, because if I have vulnerabilities that are exploitable for the internet, those are the ones that probably will get more of my attention. And actually, QVN leverage on that feature of QRM to do precisely that. You can do things, for example, sticking on vulnerabilities that can be blocked by an IPS virtual patch. So IPSs from IBM and from all the vendors, they all have virtual patches. That information is on the metadata of the vulnerability, but nobody uses that. Well, we can, because now we know exactly in the topology where the particular IPS is, and we know whether it has a virtual patch. By activating it, we can forget about that vulnerability. We can do things like finding out which devices are insecure, or are using insecure protocols. For example, with my PCI servers. It's not that they had been, and actually you'll see that we can actually evaluate all these policies in two things. One, let me write it down. We can do this based on actual traffic, that we see the evidence that the person has actually been using that particular path, that particular protocol, etc. Or is very nice potential communication. So we see that, even though I don't see in my flows on QRadar the fact that that has actually happened, it's possible that that could also happen. So we can also do simulation. For example, we have a 0-day vulnerability. If that happens to be exploited in our network, how will that propagate? And you can see step by step how that potential vulnerability can or cannot propagate. And for everything else, you can also do nice reports about this for compliance or any other reason. So this is, we created Risk Manager not just to manage firewalls. Again, it is to bring the intelligence. So not only you get the flows and the events that have made QRadar so successful, but also now you get all this configuration information, and you'll see in the subsequent videos how this intelligence can help you manage and secure your network.